I want to ask you about your time in Crockett, because obviously before you came to WWF you have a run with Jim Crockett Promotions, and you talked earlier about some of the experience that you got and some of the names that you got to work with. But how fundamental was that to kind of getting you ready for the bright lights of the WWF?
Well, it was huge. When I first started wrestling, I wrestled for Mrs. Maivia, that's The Rock's grandmother. I wrestled for her in the Blaisdell in Honolulu, and my first match was with Maniac Mark Lewin. And when I locked up with him, he looked at me, and I was like 325 pounds, and I was a monster back then. Power lifter, 800-pound squatter,
Wow.
deadlifter. I was strong. So when I locked up with him, he said to me, he pushed me back, and he goes, my name was Czar Mongo then. He says, Czar, he goes, take it easy, and I went, what do you mean? I was so nervous, I was ready to tear his head off. And we end up having a match, and I wrestled him I don't know how many times, and I was in New Zealand, and I was over there for about 6 months, and I thought I was the greatest wrestler of all time at that time. you know.
Yep.
So then I left there and I came home, and I met with Dusty Rhodes down in Florida Championship Wrestling, and he sent me to Atlanta with Ole Anderson. So then I had a few matches there, and I learned more, and I thought, boy, I'm so much better now than I was in Hawaii. Then he sent me to Bill Watts down in Louisiana in Mid South. That's where I really learned how to wrestle. So I was there for about a year or so, and then I thought, well, shoot, I could be up in the big leagues. I'm the best now, right?
Yeah.
So then I got to Florida, and I was partners with Jim Neidhart, and we wrestled the Freebirds, and we wrestled, all the big name guys. And I thought, well, I'm ready to go to the WWF now. I'm the best, right? So I get to Crockett Promotions, and I get with Ivan Koloff. He taught me so much. It was like I never even wrestled before. And
Really.
just being around him and being around Dusty and Ric Flair and all these top guys down there, I learned so much. That's when I really learned my craft. So Jim Crockett Promotions really helped me out. But I always learned that whenever a promoter tells you something, you trust him, you believe in him, and if they ever lie to you or cheat you, you have to confront them, and you have to be willing to quit. Well,
Mm.
that's what happened to me down there. He lied to me and he cheated me out of a payoff, and ended up being where I quit the business.